Hey, House of Massive Use here for today's review, and we're on to the Twits. Yes, I just recently watched that on Netflix. It took me a while though. I had a bit of internet problems, so I could only watch half of it, and the other half I had to wait till things got better with with everything. So yeah, it took me a while, but yeah, better late than never. And I guess I should let you know what I think of the book because it's not something I have talked about. To be honest, The Twits is one of the few Roald Dahl books I haven't actually read. Like I've heard about it and I know what the story's about, but I've never got around to reading it. I mean, I think this was around the time that it was released later, and Dahl wrote this in his later years, in I think the late 80s when his health was on decline. So it was one of his shorter stories. Um, I don't know when it was published. I'll have to double check whether it was pre Matilda or post Matilda. But yeah, I from what I know, it basically keeps to Dahl's Norwegian heritage when it came to myths and all that, and has its quirky style. It's set within the parameters of his uh, featuring recurring elements from many of his stories. And from what I hear, the Twits are considered one of his funniest bad guys, and yeah, I think when you look at it, I mean, obviously the Wormwood family and Matilda are well known. The Boggles Bunsen Bean and Fantastic Mr. Fox and the Grand High Witch and the Witches, um, they definitely, the Twits are definitely within there, you know, is what I'm trying to say. But going into this film, because I hadn't read the book, I was interested to see what they would do to a newcomer like me who, yeah, hasn't read the book, but is a fan of Roald Dahl anyway. And well, uh I never really watched any trailers, but I saw promotional pictures and all that, and I was thinking, okay, this could be interesting. Um and and but what I gotta say is I was a little disappointed. It's strange. Like I think this could have been something better, but and look, from what I can understand, um okay, I should mention is that the plot isn't at exactly word for word from the book. In fact, the book's plot isn't exactly the plot of this. Yes, there are elements of it, like the Twits themselves and the Mugglewumps, the creatures that they're trying to capture. But the main storyline is that these two orphans are in a town that the Twits live outside of, and after the Twits theme park they built gets shut down by the town, they go on a rampage and attack the town. And these orphans discover the Mugglewumps and free them at the same time as exposing the Twits for their crimes. When the Twits realize, and eventually the Twits have to get back the Mugglewumps from the orphans, and you know the orphans have to stop them. And you're dealing with the themes are kindness, hate versus hate against hatred, and family, which are elements directly in Roald Dahl's stories, but the thing is, and look, as I said, I have not read the book, but I don't know. The orphan factor is just way too generic. And look, it's appeared in other doll stories. I get that, but I mean, I love how it's used in James and Giant Peach. I love the use of it in the BFG. But they're completely different stories, and they were originally conceived by dolls. So it's he had his own spin on things, and it works. With this, it's just too formulaic. I mean, this is an original. This is a story that's completely that is semi based on a book that never really indulged in that. So it's just way too generic to work with. And these orphans are just I don't care about these characters, and yeah, and that's the thing. I don't really care about these kids. These two children who are the lead characters in this. I don't care for them. Like I mean, you could maybe have populate the town around the Twits with characters that just show up here and there. Do a bit of like the Grinch interacting with Whoville, but I don't think they really thought it through. Well, the director of this, because I know this is the same director who made the Wreck-It Ralph movies. And look, I'm going to defend Breaks the Internet. I don't think it's as bad as what people say it is, but even then, I will admit it's not as good as the original. But with this, yeah, I really couldn't get into it. But I think the big now, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what I think of the gross out humor. And to be honest, I don't mind. I don't mind because knowing what I know about the characters, I'm actually okay with it with this because it's yes, yeah. Look, fart jokes aren't my thing. I get desensitized to them when they're used in too much or in things that don't make sense. With this, it makes sense. With the twits, it makes sense that they do all this gross out stuff. It makes sense. It's part of the character, and from what I understand, it was part of their character in the book too. So that I'm okay with that. But my biggest issue is actually the choice of animation. This is CGI animation. Look, I'm not going to complain too much about Netflix and their CGI films. Look, they're 3D animated movies. I mean, at the moment, I think Netflix is the kings of stop motion animation because there's not really much to get released in theaters. But when it comes to their other stuff, and look, the 2D stuff they occasionally do, that's good. You get a few some sleepy hits here and there. But their 3D anime movies have been absolutely garbage. I mean, sure you might get a few here and there that are good, but most of the time the stuff they release on there is just ugh. Um, yeah, and I think this film would have worked better if it was actually stop motion, considering what the world looks like and the character designs and just everything about this just feels like it should be a stop motion. I don't know if it should be claymation or plasticine animation or what Leica does, but it just doesn't look right being CG. These characters just do not work for me in CG, and I think it's really missing that, and I do feel like that's a big problem with me with this. It's just distracting that it's 3D. It's just 3D animation. I think it should have been stop motion. Um, and it must be sounding like I'm really harsh on this, but I will admit there are some things I don't think it's an awful adaptation. I mean, the Twits themselves are great characters. I like them, and their voice actors are perfect for them. They do a really good job. With the in terms of the voice acting themselves, I mean the acting in general, it's fine. Um, I know Natalie Portman and Emilia Clarke are in it, but I forget what the characters are. I think one of them's a muggle the other is the narrator, which is uh, flea or nit or some sort of parasite that lives in the Mr. Twit's beard. I don't know. I don't know. I have to I can't recall, but yeah, those are the only two names I'm fully aware of. Oh yeah, and Alan Tudyk. Yeah, I'm not gonna go on that. But yeah, other than that, that's really about it. And I mean, and the song. I know this is also musical, but there's only three songs. I don't really call it. I guess the other thing I should mention is whether I think this is bleeding. Netflix are using this film to build a Roald Dahl cinematic universe. Look, with my thoughts on it, it can work because certain elements in Dahl, as I said, certain elements in Dahl's stories have cross-referenced in other stuff. I mean, I know that various creatures they'll reference in Loompa Land, which Loompa Land does actually show up in this film as a mid-credit scene. As I was saying, so various creatures in Loompa Land are referenced in the Mippens. The BFG, before he ever had his own book, was mentioned in Dane the Champion of the World. Um, and I think there's some other stuff as well that gets referenced here and there. I know one of Roald's short stories was a bit of the inspiration. Name was the inspiration for Dane the Champion of the World. And I guess there's some other stuff here and there as well. I'll have to double check. Actually, I do think maybe there's a reference to the witches within the Twits, actually. And from what I hear, maybe in the book. But I'll have to check that when I eventually do read it. But I kind of don't want it. At this stage, I really don't. I mean, look, it'd be cool if it was as a fan of Roald Dahl, but I just don't really want to see it. Just tell these stories, show me what they're like. I'm still actually hoping to see there are a few other stories that I would love to see get done. Also want to, I still have yet to see Danny the Champion of the World, the Jeremy Irons film, and maybe even see that get redone, remade. It's about time. But yeah, and I was, and plus you could also do his shorter stories as actual short films. I mean, I would love to see, say, the Revolting Rhymes get, done a bit like that. I'm still waiting to see the Vicar of Nibbles wiki vote. Personally, I'd love to see Wes Anderson do that next. I think it'd be good. Uh, Mippens as well. Love to see that. Yeah, there are a lot you can. There's a lot you can. The Magic Finger. Look, just I sound like I'm going on, but I'm just saying that I don't want to see a cinematic universe built at this stage. I really just don't. But if it happens, it happens. But in terms of this, I really can't recommend it. Like, I'm not calling it the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not, and probably there are worse adaptations of Dahl stories. I'm probably looking at, say, The Witches, the Robert Zemeckis movie that kind of has gone further downhill since I reviewed it when it came out. And yeah, but that's just what I think. And in general, I'll give us maybe a 4.5 out of 10 hand stars. I really I can't say this is a good film. And it's not even so bad it's enjoyable. It's just boring. And I find that, very disappointed as a fan of Roald Dahl stories. Again, as I said, I've never read the book, and though, to be fair, as I said, this isn't a direct adaptation of it. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, but in terms of what's next, I have got something in mind to release on Halloween. Um, but beforehand, I'm going to try and get a review done of the recent Bruce Springsteen movie. So watch out for that. For the meantime, Passive Reviews is out, and I shall see you for my next review. Ciao!